Hello again, everybody. This is John with BestPriceNutrition.com. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about 5-HTP or 5-hydroxytryptophan. We're getting a lot of questions on it, as usual, when Dr. Oz talks about it and then makes promises like it's going to cut your appetite in half and stuff. So we'll go through with whether or not some of these promises are actually true as demonstrated by the evidence and what it really does. I have your list of questions here that we've had coming in, so I want to go through them with you real quick. But first one right off the bat is, what is 5-HTP? It's a derivative of the amino acid tryptophan, which then in the body gets converted to serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. That's pretty much, I would just think of that as like a hormone for your brain, okay? And it's specifically responsible for making you happy. Now, some of the theories include that if your serotonin levels are higher, then you're not going to want to eat as much. Is kind of the idea. That's where the appetite suppression and things like that come into play. Real quick sources. We had a few questions. It's not the most common thing that you're going to find in food. Usually, you're going to find it in the form of tryptophan. And then people say, well, why not just take the amino acid tryptophan? Well, the reason is that it's limiting. Your body, it doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier as well as 5-HTP. And also it can be used for other, things in your body, like building proteins within your body and things like that. There's other functions of tryptophan besides being converted to serotonin. So getting it in the 5-HTP form has been demonstrated to be more effective at increasing serotonin levels. So that's why you'd want to use 5-HTP. Now, the why use it question that we get is depression. There's a correlation between, low tryptophan levels and correspondingly serotonin levels. Associated with or correlated with depression. Now, does that mean that this is the answer to depression? Not necessarily. We do know, though, that there is some evidence that shows it can help people who are depressed because it does elevate serotonin levels, as I said, which we know is responsible for making you happy. Now, if you are somebody, this is the word of the wise, if you're on an SSRI or a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it's not a good idea to take 5-HTP. You're already blocking the reabsorption of serotonin, so adding more to the mix is not something you want to mess with. You got to be pretty careful with those. So if you're on an SSRI, definitely don't take it. So there's a lot of factors as well that can be causing low tryptophan levels. It could be from diet. It could be from upregulation of an enzyme that's actually involved in the process of degrading tryptophan. So a lot of things there. So there's some potential there for depression. But we'd always advise consulting with your physician if you are, in fact, clinically depressed, or maybe you're just not feeling good, and then maybe this will help. That's fine. It's certainly worth a shot in that sense. Fibromyalgia, that's another one that's been purported. 5-HTP has been purported to help with, but fibromyalgia is also something that's commonly correlated with depression. It's one of those conditions that we don't have a full understanding of. I'm pretty sure that you have to go through a rheumatologist to get a proper diagnosis, and there's a bunch of criteria, some of which is subjective. So we're still trying to understand that one. So there's some theories on fibromyalgia, and there's some studies on it, but nothing too strong. Probably need some more research on that. And just that whole condition in general needs more research. Now the big one, appetite suppression. That's the one everyone's talking about, everyone has questions on. It has been demonstrated to help for people who are overweight or diabetic in terms of lowering consumption of fat and carbohydrates specifically. They've done randomized double-blind placebo tests, and they have found in these studies that 5-HTP can help. And the theory is that by elevating these serotonin levels, that'll help with those cravings. And that has demonstrated to be effective. Now the question, if you're otherwise healthy, you're pretty lean, is it going to help you? Probably not, because you don't have these problems. Now, we don't have a bunch of studies on these populations because it's kind of like, well, why are we studying appetite suppression in somebody who's otherwise lean or healthy? So really who it's going to help with is somebody who is struggling with this. Perhaps if you're pre-diabetic or you have metabolic syndrome or things like that, that's who it's going to be most effective for. Other questions come into play, like questions about fillers or binders and things like that. Guys, there's a lot of marketing that goes on out there with that. Like, ours doesn't have any fillers or binders. Something like this, for instance, this product I'm holding, well, it says cellulose on here. Well, that's what the capsule's made of. That's not a filler. That's not a binder. So sometimes people tend to think, oh, that's a filler or a binder. Or sometimes there's a lubricant that's used, when these are processed, so that the powder or whatever doesn't stick to the machinery. That's not a filler. If it says that there's, in this one specifically, 100 milligrams in a capsule, there's 100 milligrams in a capsule. The filler is not taking away from that. So be careful of charlatans who are telling you ours doesn't use this or that, or if it's got this in there, it's going to kill you or whatever. Just there's no evidence of that. So that's always a red herring when we hear fillers, binders. What the hell does that even mean? So that's something to consider. Talked about healthy individuals. Can it be taken with other stuff? Yes, and it has a potential to have a synergy with melatonin. Melatonin is something else that tryptophan can be combined with. Those of you who recognize melatonin will think of sleep. Melatonin is something that's heavily involved in your circadian rhythms. As it gets darker in a room, for instance, your body starts to produce more melatonin, which kind of tells your body to go to sleep. But for this specific purpose, melatonin is able to inhibit the enzyme that degrades tryptophan. So there may be some synergy there. It hasn't been studied enough. There's really just one study showing that. Who can take it? Well, we already covered who can't or shouldn't. Specifically, if you're on an SSRI, Lexapro, whatever the drug's name is that you're on, you shouldn't take it. I would say to limit use of this, no matter who you are, to about 12 weeks at the most. Anytime you're increasing serotonin levels or neurotransmitters, anything like that, it's usually a good idea to give yourself a break from time to time so you don't get any downregulation or anything like that. So that's real important. How to take it? Dr. Oz recommended that people take 50 milligrams 2 to 3 times per meal. That's a really conservative dose, in my opinion. Looking at the research, you're looking at anywhere from 300 to 900 milligrams a day is generally what's been shown to be effective. Specifically for appetite suppression, most of the research has been done where about 750 to 900 milligrams has been used as a dose. So I hope I covered all your questions here. I can't think of any others. Got them all written down here, sorry. So just want to make sure. But if you guys have other ones, post them in the comments section of the video of the blog. I hope I was able to get across to you what this does. So post them there. Also check us out at facebook.com/bestpricenutrition. Thanks for watching.